Now the lead receive is a warm handoff from the lead qualifying team. It may have been a cold call, could have been a text message. You could have sent out a direct mail campaign that we received a phone call. Could be a website lead that came through SEO. Whatever the case is, we're capturing that lead. That's triggering the beginning of the acquisitions process. From there, the goal is this. Live transfer. So if we're using batch dialer and we have one of the sellers on the phone, they're raising their hand, good to go. Our goal is to live transfer that to our acquisitions manager where they can go straight into their script, right? Push towards the close. All right, let's dive into some acquisitions. In order to start paving the way for this process, the best thing that I can do is lay out a process map to go step by step, giving you a clear picture of what this looks like. Now, if we pop over to the shared computer screen, you can see where we got lead received. Now, the lead receive is a warm handoff from the lead qualifying team. It may have been a cold call, could have been a text message. You could have sent out a direct mail campaign that we received a phone call. Could be a website lead that came through SEO. Whatever the case is, we're capturing that lead. That's triggering the beginning of the acquisitions process. From there, the goal is this. Live transfer. So if we're using batch dialer and we have one of the sellers on the phone, they're raising their hand, good to go. Our goal is to live transfer that to our acquisitions manager where they can go straight into their script, right? Push towards the close. However, if we're dropping it into the CRM, right? If we did not execute on the live transfer capability or it was a text message, whatever the case is, our goal is to call that lead back within 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes is that crucial point where they say if we're not getting back within the first 5 minutes of receiving the phone call or the lead, our chances of getting that lead converted to a contract decrease by 50%, right? So the first bullet point we're going to write here on the board is call within 5 minutes. That's crucial. That 5-minute mark is what we got our eyes targeted on, right? So in order to convert more contracts, that 5-minute mark, guys, and again, 50% less chance of contract if we're waiting longer than 5 minutes, right? We got to strike while the iron is hot. And the old saying, time is the killer of all deals, is so true, right? So we're following this to the T. So once we've gotten back in touch with the lead, right, in that process, we're doing two things. We're building rapport, right? Because the absolute most important thing when getting on this phone call is to get the seller to trust us, right? We want to earn their trust. We want them to like us. So building rapport is the first and most important step in this process, right? Relationships first, earn their trust, and you can follow your seller calling script from there, but just make sure that you're really upfront, that you have an inviting voice, right, before stepping into any next steps. And while you're on that call, after your introduction stage, hey, Mr. Seller, no problem. Thank you for that information. Bear with me 1 second while I go ahead and pull up your property information online. That way I can get familiar with the area, right? So simultaneously, you're pulling up Zillow or PropStream, right? This sheet was made a long time ago. You can see REI Pro when we used to use that. Zillow, PropStream, Realtor.com. We got the quick offer formula, right, in the modules as well. But quick pre-appointment intelligence, right? You want to make sure you know what you're talking about while you're on the phone. In that process, you're going to go down to start vetting the lead as you go through your housekeeping steps. After we earn their trust, right, we built rapport, we got to know their occupation, we know something about their family, right, if they want to open up. Some sellers are just strictly business, right, but if they're telling us about their family life, We want to know about their family. We want to know about their interests, what they do for fun, right? Because this is all information, all ammunition that we can take and in turn use that, right, when it comes to the negotiation stage. We're always taking every piece of information that's given to us and we're holding on to that in our arsenal. So after we go through that, right, we want to identify, based on this first phone call, which lead bucket that lead falls into, right? Going back to the lead buckets. Is it hot? Is it warm? Is it cold? Every lead gets assigned. Every lead has a name, right? So we want to identify up front, what is the motivation level of this seller based on this conversation, right? Was they able to build really good trust? And are they interested in selling within the next 30 days, 60 days? Or is it more of a long-term follow-up, right? So we're doing all of this simultaneously, right? Building rapport, getting to know them, asking about their family, occupation, all that. Perfect. Thank you. That's I understand that. Or say their daughter's in cheerleading, right? Oh, that's incredible. I can imagine how fun that might be. And you're taking notes, right? Because sales is a relationship game, and understanding that every lead has a life cycle, right? Think about the life cycle of a seed. You have to plant it, you have to nourish it, you have to water it, and along that process, eventually it starts to sprout up and grow, right? Eventually you earn more rapport, you earn more trust. Most of these closings are not going to happen on the first call. In fact, very seldomly, back to the 80-20 principle, right? 80% of our deals come from long-term follow-up. So we need to understand that, and we need to nourish those leads and continue to follow up with them, right? That's why we have a CRM system as a long-term follow-up process. So we're really, really igniting those relationships, and we're letting those sellers know that we're serious, right? We want to be top of mind whenever that time comes that they're ready to sell. So on the call, right, we're talking, and we're also looking on Zillow. We're looking on Realtor.com, getting a feel for the area so we have an idea, right? What is this property worth? So we'll go down here, right? In we'll say the pre-appointment process, or even, the qualification process on the phone with them. Let's determine the ARV of the property, right? ARV standing for after repair value. What is the market value? What is this house worth? What are other houses selling for in the area, right? We want to get to know that pretty well. Now, we don't have to be spot on, but we want to have a pretty good idea as far as what that house is worth. What is the 100% value of that house, right? And that can help us with the equation moving forward. So back to the lead buckets, right? And we'll have a full out training on those, right? But based on how hot the qualification is, determines on what we're doing. If it's hot lead, let's either set an in-person appointment if it's in our local market or municipality so we can meet them in person. You're always going to be building better trust and rapport in person, right? However, most of our business is out of state, right? So we need to really implement closing over the phone factor, which in this post-COVID era, people understand that companies do business virtually, right? So there's a lot more understanding as far as doing the virtual type of model. But if they're hot, if it's ready to go, we need to make sure we're executing and we're pushing straight to the process and we're striking while the iron is hot. The warm leads, right, we're not pushing them too hard. We're not being too pushy, but we're vetting them and we're reading the motivation levels based on what they're telling us, right? Based on the information that they disclose on the call. Like if we're able to get a price together that worked for you, how soon are you looking to close, right? We got the timeline in mind. What is the condition of the house, right? And every question that we ask, right, which we'll have the in-depth calling script call, and you guys can have access to the calling script to help dial in. But again, every question, every factor that we're pulling out is helping us get a little bit closer to the motivation, right? What is the true reason that this person either wants or needs to sell? Right? We don't need to buy a house. We want to buy a house, right? But some of these sellers, they need to sell, right? The bigger the distress point, the bigger the problem, the deeper the discount, right? So we know that. And our goal is to really get to the root cause of what is their reason for selling, right? So, boom, we're assigning it to a bucket, right? And it has a unique sequence, a unique sales process based on the motivational level. If there's just strictly, 100% market value or talking to an agent, make sure we have relationships with agents, boots on the ground. But we always want to document each call, each and every call inside of the CRM or whatever we're operating on, right? Because the documents of the call, especially if you have a team of either multiple closers, multiple people, you got a lead manager, we want to know about that person so we're not having to ask the same questions, right? Now, a quick, easy way to document that's free, right, is going back to Slack. And let's pop over to our appointment tracker, right, where we got a lead that's come in. And every single time that a lead comes in, right, internally we're marking it. Eyes is Jason's way of saying, hey, I see this one, I'm acknowledging it, I'm calling, right? And the check, right, is Jordan's way of saying, okay, perfect, I'm pulling this and I'm adding it to the CRM, right? Because we want to add all these to the CRM. Slack is just our simple, it's our quick fire method where everything's documented in here as a backup, right? But the CRM's where we're truly doing all the work and the interaction. But inside of here, right, we want to make sure that we're taking notes. So boom, JB uploaded this in the CRM. If Jay was able to call and get in touch with the seller, he could do something like this. Spoke with the seller. They are interested in selling for this price. This is their reason for selling, right? Something like that. And then you could say, has a daughter that is in cheerleading. They are going to a national championship. Something like that, right? We want to get to know them and we want to document it. So guess what? The next time that we're following up with this lead, we can be like, okay, what's the seller's name? Hey, Miss Ruth, just wanted to give you a phone call, see how everything was going. Well, seeing your owner's list, we'll say this is probably her granddaughter, right? But for training purposes, right? Hey, Miss Ruth, how was the cheerleading competition last week? I know that they were heading out to Tennessee for this, and that, right? But you're remembering things, you're taking note of it, and you're showing Miss Ruth that you really care. It's the relationship above the sale, right? We have a people over profits model inside of our business. That's the way that we want to operate. And we always want to treat people like their friends, like their family, and we always want to show them that we care, right? So important, guys. And if you can implement this inside of your business, you're going to win so many more deals, guys, than not implementing this method. So paying attention to it, guys, and just being very clear about how you run your process.